In this video, I'm going to show you how you can build a list of selectable items, something similar to the radio buttons. And alongside, I'm going to show you two very interesting tips. One related to designing the API of a reusable composable, and the other one is related to best practices when you're working with monetary amounts. For context, this video came as an answer to a question that was asked inside the Android devs community that I'm running. So if you're looking for a place where your questions are not only going to be answered, but they will be elaborated on with demos and videos similar to this one, a place where you'll find a classroom full of materials related to Android development, the newest and the coolest technologies, and finally a place where you will build skills, gain confidence, and grow your Android development career. Find a link below this video and join the Android devs community. Now let's get to the code and see how we can build a list of selectable items. For a change, in this video I'm only going to walk you through the code instead of writing it in front of you, so that the video is not gonna get boring. And also I'm gonna put link to the code in the description of the video so you can find it easily. Now here I have a composable selectable list. It is always a good idea to have a modifier, items which are coming as a list, which item is selected, and what happens when I select another item. Now as we can see, here is a preview on the right hand side how they look like, and this data item by default is null, the selected one, and of course we can restrict the user to actually have at least one item selected at any time, and to do so we can remove this question mark here and we can say items.first will always be a selected one, and in that case we are always going to have an item selected. So inside I have a lazy column. I'm passing down the modifier. I've applied a little bit of content padding. As we can see, the horizontal is a little bit smaller than the vertical one, and also I am adding some spacing between the items themselves. Then as of the items themselves, I'm just calling another selectable list item that I have different preview here. As we can see, I have one selected, one unselected. And here is the first thing that I mentioned at the beginning of the video when you are designing an API for the composable. So here what I can do instead, because I'm passing down a modifier, I can pass here modifier.clickable and do this item selection on that click. So basically move this clickable on the modifier here. The problem then is that this composable is not communicating what are all the possibilities that we can do, basically. And in a way, we are sort of making that implicit and hidden in a way. And on the flip side, exposing a callback like this one is actually telling to the user of this selectable list item that something will happen when you click on this item, so you can choose what to do, but basically that functionality is already part of the composable item. So this is something that I found very useful throughout the years of using Compose. So like if you do have functionality like that, make it explicit so that the users of those composables will find it easy to work with them. Next, inside the selectable list item, nothing really spectacular. I have a row that also has a border and it is clickable and it has some padding, and we are also clipping that for these rounded corners. And that's about it. So inside I do have this check. We are gonna get to the check just in a moment. And inside I have this column. I'm not gonna bother explaining what's inside because it's very simple. Just split equally on the left and on the right so that I can show these two parts. And as I said, later we are gonna look into working with monetary amounts, something very interesting to show. And that's about it. So nothing spectacular here. I'm gonna skip over it. Then for the actual check, we are animating the background and the border color based on whether it is checked or not. And also I am having here an animation spec which makes it bounce. And of course I can change the animation spec or remove it entirely. And then inside I'm just having a box that has particular size. It is clipped to a circle, and then I apply the border and the background that we are animating. And then based on the condition if it is checked or not, I'm going to apply an icon that comes from the default icons that are coming from the Compose SDK. And that's about it basically. And then I have preview for the check, and then preview for the list item itself, and finally preview for the entire list. And now if I run this in interactive mode, we're gonna see how nicely it is animating when I click on something, how this check is being animated, the background and the border. Ultimately, as I promised, I'm gonna show you best practices when it comes to working with monetary amounts. So here I have this data item class that inside has monthly payments in cents. So when it comes to working with monetary amounts, a best practice is to represent this monetary amount with the least possible diminutive of the currency in question. So for example, if you're working in dollars, represent the amounts in cents. If you're working with euros, the same story. And in that sense, instead of using, for example, float or double to represent 2.55 euros. Take the amounts in cents, and that's gonna make it much easier for you to work with the monetary amounts. Now, I hope you find this useful, and I hope it's gonna help you anytime you work with monetary amounts. So that's about it. I hope you find this useful. And again, if you are looking for a place where you can get one-on-one hands-on support with building skills, gaining confidence, and getting help in your Android development career, find a link below this video and join our Android devs community. I'm looking forward to seeing you inside. Cheers.